Hello everyone, welcome to iQuanta. Today we'll be learning the different kind of tones which are there in the reading comprehension passages of your logical reasoning part of your CLAT. So I'll wait for just 2 more minutes so that all the people can join in, and then we'll be starting the session. Yes, Om, definitely you can prepare even if you're from Hindi medium. It's fine. You will just have a little bit more trouble learning the English language and the logical reasoning part, because of course that's in English. But of course, if with right amount of effort, कर सकते हो आप, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. So let us begin. So, as you know, there are certain kinds of tones which the author uses in their reading comprehension passages, and based upon that, there are a lot of critical reasoning based questions as well in your exam. So, hence it becomes of very importance that you learn the different types of tones which are there, and you are able to identify those tones, so that you can understand the flow of ideas and the uh, critical words which the passage uses to indicate what kind of tone is used there. So I have curated around 10 major tones which are there in the comprehension passages. Learning all of them will make you well aware of majorly all kind of tones which are there in the reading comprehension part in your logical reasoning for CLAT. So let us look at them. These 10 tones are the major ones. You have to understand what each tone means and how do you identify all of them. So initially I'll be explaining all of these 10 tones which are there to you, and then there are 5 paragraphs which I have curated, and I'll explain it to you, and then you will have to find out the tone which are used in that by understanding all of these tones, so that you are able to comprehend better and understand what kind of tone are used in a particular paragraph or passage, right? So let us look at it. The first part here is cynical. So what does a cynical mean? Who is a cynical? So, in layman language, a cynical is someone who believes that everyone works in their self-interest and is not very trustworthy of the human disposition as per se. Like they're not very trustworthy of other humans around him, and they believe that everyone is working in their self-interest only. So, cynical kind of passages you can summarize it that author believes that everyone else is selfish, and everyone is working in their own interest to gain a certain kind of benefit for them, right? So those kind of passages where the author is presenting an argument and saying that and is dismissive of human connections, human trust, and sees that everyone is working for their own benefit, then you can identify that the particular paragraph or passage is of cynical tone, right? I hope cynical tone is clear to you. Later on, there are some paragraphs of maybe one of those paragraphs can be of cynical tone, and you will have to identify if that's a cynical tone or not, right? So let's move on to the next one. The next one is biased. So in your 11th or 12th, if you had mathematics with you, you in probability you might have learned that a coin is biased or an unbiased coin, right? So what does a biased coin mean, or what does it just say? What does a biased person or biased thing mean? So a particular person is called biased if they are favorable of one outcome over others. Like let's say I am a cricket enthusiast, and there is a match going on between India and Australia. So during there is a watch session with my friends. I'm watching along with them, and I'm very critical of the Australian bowling lineup, but I'm very appreciative of the Indian batting lineup, and hence because I'm biased towards the Indian cricket team, right? I prefer them to win. I'm able to look away from their drawbacks, but I'm very appreciative of them, and I don't exactly see much mistakes in them because I have a certain favor for them, I have certain love for them, and hence you can say that I am biased towards the Indian cricket team, right? So in that way, similar way, whenever an passage is presented to you, and if the author is favorable of only one of the argument over the other one, and is only heaping praises towards the one part over the other part, then you can say that the tone of the author is biased. He is favorable of one outcome over the other one. So that way we can identify that the tone of that paragraph will be biased. Shiba, we'll have another session for the syllabus part later on. Just let's focus on the current thing which we have in front of you, which is the tones of the passages and how to identify them, right? We will have a separate session. You can also ask the iQuanta support team, contact them. They will connect you with someone for all of the details surrounding the CLAT part or the law preparation part, right? So you can reach out to anyone later on. We'll just focus on the current thing which is in front of us, which is the tones of the passages we have to learn. So the third tone here is narrative. So what does exactly narrative mean, or what is exactly a narration? So let's say you are the audience here, and I narrate you a story of my childhood or an experience I had. I am describing it in details, and I am recalling an event which occurred in the past, and I'm narrating it to you. I'm describing it to you. In that way, you can say that my tone is narrative because I'm narrating an incident or an event which happened in my life, or not necessarily even in my life, happened to someone else, and I am telling you that part in very detail and in the first person manner. So you can say that an author, if that is the case with a reading comprehension as well, then you can say that the author's tone is narrative, and he is discussing an event which had occurred in the past or had occurred to someone else, or in general history also. It just, let's say, Israel Palestine war happened, and the author is describing an event to you in details in the first person itself. The key points there will be I. The author will use a lot of I, or a proper incident will be there with great detail. It would have been described by the author, and then you can infer that the tone of the author is narrative, right? So I hope narrative is also clear to you. So we have learned three of the tones till now. If you have any doubt regarding any of these three tones about how to identify the tone, or any other query you have regarding the tones, you can please ask. Then we'll continue with the rest of the tones we have. If everything is clear to you, please give me a quick thumbs up if you don't have any queries, so that we can move on with the rest of the tones part. All right, so it seems like you do not have any query or doubt regarding the three tones we have discussed. Then we'll move on to the rest of the tones. So the next tone in front of us is descriptive. So as the word suggests, it is made up of word. Descriptive is basically describe, plus a prefix is added, which is descriptive, right? So the root word here is describe. So as the name suggests, the tone of the author will be descriptive only when the author is describing a thing in great detail. I'll give you an example. Let's say there is a new cutting edge technology which has come in the which has come in front of us, and the author is very excited about it and describing it in great details. Even the hooks and crooks of the new technology which is there, and he's giving the details of the how technology works, how everything was curated, how everything will help us, and how they are planning to expand it or spread it across the different people, right? So if the author is describing something or some technology, let's say some incident, some story in great detail, not not necessarily in the first person, because that is the criteria of a narrative tone. So if something is described in great detail with a lot of inputs given by the author, then we can say that the tone of the author will be descriptive, right? And as I have mentioned, the root word here is describe. So you have to identify if some author is describing something, then you can identify that yes, this tone of the author can be descriptive here, right? So that would be all for descriptive part. Let's move on to the sarcastic part. So sarcasm is something which even you would have used a lot in your life, I suppose. Uh, so how do you identify a tone is sarcastic or not? So I'll give you an example. Let's say you are scheduled to meet your friend at 6 p.m. And your friend arrives at 6:30 or 6:45 p.m. So you often say, "You are so. How come you are so early?" Right? In actuality, he's late, and but you, with a taunting tone, want to make him diminished or make him feel bad for being late. You say, "Oh, how come you are so early?" Right? So that is what sarcasm is, right? You are using words which are actually opposite of the truth. That he is very late, but you are using that you are so early, right? You are using the opposing words, but you want to but it is very clear to both of you that you are using it in a taunting tone, right? So you're making your point clear that you are critical of him, that he is very late, but you are using it in a positive tone, like, oh, how come you're so early? So you're using the opposite words. The opposite words are the key points here. You use opposite words to describe an event in which, whereas in actuality, something entirely different has happened, right? So in that way, you if the same has happened in a reading comprehension passage, or the author is using these words like, oh, the let's say that atomic energy, which is very nature friendly, is very bad for us, because how badly it will impact us in a jokingly way, whereas in reality he wants to convey something entirely opposite, right? So that way we can say that the tone of the author is sarcastic. And as I have given you an example, you also use sarcasm a lot in your daily life. I hope so. You are using sarcasm a lot in your daily life, because, of course, it's also a kind of figure of speech which you use to convey your point in a different way, right? So we are done with five of the major tones. These are the five major tones which are there in the CLAT part, in the logical reason part of CLAT. There are five more. So if anybody have a query, if anyone wants to ask something, please ask regarding these five tones. If there is any query or any problem with you, then we'll move on to the next five tones which we have. Just give me a quick check if there is anything else you want to get cleared. All right, so it seems that nobody has a query. Then we'll move on to the next tones which we have with us. So the next one here is critical with us. So what does being critical of something or someone means? So in layman terms, the word critical means being disapproving of someone. Let's say I am critical of a political leader. I don't like someone and I am very not agreeing, not in favor with the policies which they have or which they conduct. So I am very critical of them. Uh, Even oratory or writing, in writing as well, I am not very appreciative of them. In fact, I'm opposite of appreciative. I'm not exactly want them to be successful, or let's say something have a positive impact on them, right? So I am very critical of them, you can say. In the same way, if you have a passage and the author lays out a main argument there's a main argument heading in there, and the author is very critical of it. He is describing the drawbacks of it, negative points of it. There can be even an idea which is presented by the author, and author is later on disapproving it, mentioning the drawbacks, mentioning the critical points and why it will fail. Then we can say that the author is very critical of that idea or that person. So in that way, we can identify that the tone of the author is critical, right? So that would be all of the critical part. Next up we have the nostalgic part. So what does exactly nostalgic? Of course, is made up of nostalgia. The root word here is nostalgia. So, nostalgia is basically a feeling of the good old days gone by, right? So, let's say if the author is presenting, is describing something or an event, let's say he's reminiscing about his college life and how funny he used to have, how good a friendship group he had back then in college, then we can say that the author is nostalgic about his past and is reminiscing those memories through the passage and the arguments presented in the passage. So you have to remember that for a passage to be nostalgic, it the arguments mentioned in the passage has to have happened in the past itself, right? You cannot be nostalgic about the future exactly, right? You only the time gone by, you can look back in awe of it or in favor of it, like how good old times were. So let's say there is a passage mentioning how good were the Victorian days of the Britain back then. Then you can, and describing every author is describing everything in detail, how monarchy was run, how happy the people were there, and how happy he was living there. Let's say, for an example, we're imagining, of course, somebody cannot be alive if he was living in the Victorian times, but let's assume that he's describing that in great detail, right? So we can say that the author is nostalgic of a past, of the time gone by, which he used to love. He was reminiscing of it correctly. So you can identify by that way that the tone of the author is nostalgic, right? So I hope you understand how to identify a tone which is nostalgic of the author, and what are the key points you have to keep in mind. So let's move on to the next one, which is laudatory. So laudatory basically means appreciative. Appreciative is a synonym of laudatory. The tone of the author can be said to be laudatory only when author is presenting arguments and he is very happy about it and is raving with great words about it, that this is so good. Let's say this will be so beneficial to us, and he doesn't even have a mention any one of the drawbacks which is have, and he is completely sure that this is the thing which was meant to be in this way, and he's so happy that the things turned out this way, or this argument is presented, and how appreciative or how agreeful he is with the argument presented by the author in a passage, right? So that way you can know that the tone of the author will be laudatory. As I mentioned earlier, the synonym of laudatory is appreciative. So if you identify that the author is very appreciative of the tone of an is very appreciative of an argument presented by him, or an idea presented by him, or a technology, let's say, which is new to us, and is very completely in awe of it, is starring with words to it towards it and throwing appreciative posts about it, then you can say that the author is laudatory of that idea or that logic, and you can identify that the tone of the author is laudatory, right? So that would be all for laudatory, and next up we have is informative. So informative, as the name suggests, that the root word here is again information. So let's say if an author wants us to have information about something, an idea, an institution, let's say, or a political circle which is there, then we can say that the author is trying to be informative towards us. He wants us to know about the details which are all there in the that circle, that institution, or those people as well, you can say. So in short, if author wants us to have information about something, or regarding something, then we can say that the tone of the author is informative, right? So the informative passages are basically a bit easier to find out because an idea is presented and author gives information about it. He is not exactly dividing it into pros or cons. He just wants us to be aware of it. He is giving a lot of facts in that, how things are there, and just wants us to have information. There can be pros and cons as well mentioned in the passage, but the author wouldn't be taking sides about it, right? If author is taking sides, then we can say that the author is biased. You can have another tone in that. But if that is not the case, he just wants us to have the information without it necessarily taking sides and mentioning both the pros and cons, then we can say that the tone of the author is informative, right? As the root word is information as well, you can easily identify that the tone of the passage is informative. So now we have come to a last tone, which is optimistic, and as the name suggests, the root word here is optimism. And if the author is looking forward, is looking towards the future of an idea, and is very have a positive outlook towards something, then we can say that the author is optimistic about that idea, that technology, that political circle, that sports team as well. So in that way, if author is looking forward towards the future in a good way, not exactly in a dystopian way, in an utopian way, as you can say, then we can say that the author is optimistic regarding that idea, or that those kind of people as well. So in that way, we can find if the author is looking towards the future, wants to see how things turn out and is very hopeful for it, that the things will turn out that way, then we can say that the tone of the author is optimistic here. So I guess I have covered all of the 10 major tones. These are the major tones. If you understand how to identify all of the major tones, your more than half of the job is done. You will be easily able to identify the tone which the author uses or the ideas which he wants to convey, right? So if you have any query regarding any of the tones, please feel free to ask. Then we'll move on to paragraphs. There are some paragraphs, and I'll ask you to identify the tone, and then later on I'll explain it and tell you the tone of the paragraph. So till now, if anybody has any query, please feel free to ask. All right, it seems like nobody has a query regarding the tones which we have studied. So let's move on to the paragraphs. Here is a paragraph. You have 2 to 3 minutes to read it and identify the tone of which is mentioned in the paragraph. Then I'll come and explain it to you. All right, so let's look at the passage and then we'll try to identify what tone is used in in this particular paragraph. I will also be underlining the keywords which are indicative of the tone used by the author. So you have to keep a sharp focus on that as well. So let us begin. Life's endless advice on success and happiness feels like a cruel joke. All right. So cruel joke here is an important point. So we can say that author is not exactly appreciative of the success and happiness advice which life has to give to us, doesn't it? It's a rhetorical question which the author asks. Rhetorical question is something which you already know the answer of, but you still, just for the sake of it, you are asking it. Let's continue. Inspirational quotes plastered everywhere as if reading them will magically fix the chaos. So, author is also critical of the inspirational tone, inspirational quotes which are there all around us, but he's also disapproving of that. That even reading the inspirational quote doesn't exactly fix anything. You still have to face life as it is. You have to see towards your problems as it is. In reading inspirational quotes may motivate someone else, but the author is not appreciative of it because the life struggle, the things remain the same to him, right? So let us continue. Hustle culture shouts work harder, while self care advocates whisper relax, you deserve it. Meanwhile, reality smirks in the background again, offering neither offering neither success nor peace, just a treadmill of bills and expectations. So author is critical of both of them. He doesn't exactly like anything. He's critical of both the hustle culture promoters and the peace of mind promoters as well, because agreeing to both of them will not exactly fix anything, because you will still have your bills to pay or your jobs which you have to tend to do, right? So author doesn't believe in exactly any of it. Author is not appreciative of hustle culture as well as the peace of mind culture as well. Let's continue. Society's obsession with positivity only glosses over the cracks, leaving you stuck in a cycle of toxic optimism. So, from reading this line, we can definitely say that the tone of the author is not optimistic, not at all. Uh, that's the point from this line we can infer, right? Let's continue. And when you finally pause to catch your breath, the world chastises you for not moving fast enough. What a brilliant system. Again, a rhetorical question here. As you can read, go through the paragraph and find out that author is not exactly happy with anything. He thinks that all those quotes or all the hard work promoters or the peace of mind promoters do not exactly do anything, because in the end life stays the same. You still have to do your jobs and look towards everything, and he's not appreciative of anything. So, can you identify what tone author is using? It is among the 10 tones which we discussed earlier, right? All right, Ashish, I'll try if it's possible to take live classes every day. But of course, I'll try that a team creates a system such way. So let's focus on the current passage here. So if you have any idea after reading the passage, of course, as I mentioned, it's definitely not optimism, but it is one of the 10 tones which we have discussed. So you make a calculated guess, not even a calculated guess, you should be knowing what kind of tone is used by the passage by the author here. Anyone, please? All right. So, getting all the information from the passage and seeing that the author is disapproving of almost everything, we can say that the tone of the author is cynical, right? As I mentioned earlier, that or if author is disapproving of anything, and everything. He doesn't exactly believe in the human systems or human connection, like the society's obsession here is a key point here as well, which he has mentioned, that he's disapproving of the society culture as well. uh, so we can find it that author is disapproving of everything. He doesn't even agree with anything. We can say that he's cynical of everything, right? Because he doesn't like anything. He believes that nothing will change by reading inspirational quotes or following the hustle culture or even the peace of mind culture as well. So we can say that the author is cynical, which means that he's disapproving of every societal traits and is disapproving of everything. Hershey sarcastic is also a good guess. Of course, there are a few points that I like the rhetorical question here, doesn't it? Or the what a brilliant system. We can say that the author is being sarcastic here, but you have to look at the overall tone, overall flow of paragraph. So cynical fits better here than the sarcastic part, because it's just sarcastic part is just stick to two of the parts which are two of the rhetorical questions which are asked in the passage, right? So overall tone of the paragraph is actually cynical. I hope everything is clear to you. If everything is clear to you, we can move on to the next paragraph, where you can find out, you can try finding out what the tone of the paragraph can be. Right? If anybody has a doubt, please ask, or just give me a quick check so that we can move on to the next paragraph. Dear Ashish, the tone is cynical. All right, so let's move on to the next paragraph. This is the next paragraph. Try reading the paragraph, understand the context, understand the flow, and try identifying the tone which is used here. All right, so let's look at this paragraph. We'll read it and try to identify what tone is used in the paragraph, right? So let's begin. Oh, isn't it just wonderful how everyone suddenly becomes an expert on your life the moment you face a problem? Have you tried being positive? So author is trying to be funny here. He has mentioned it there is somewhere that whenever you face a problem, everyone is like becomes a life coach in your life, and let's says things like "खुश रह के देखो." So of course author is using humor here to be that he doesn't know that you have to be positive, but how that nobody tells, right? So he's using humor here, and he actually knows that you should be positive, but of course the advice coming from other people, like he doesn't already knew, to be positive, right? Let's continue reading further. Have you tried being positive? They ask. As if sheer optimism can pay bills, fix relationships, or solve existential dread. Like खुश रहने से कुछ चेंज थोड़ी हो जाएगा. Uh, yes, Ashish, you are correct. We'll read completely, then we'll conclude to what tone is exactly used here. Let's continue. The unsolicited, of course, the unsolicited is also a keyword here. That unsolicited basically means unrequired. So the unsolicited advice basically means that you don't need is advice from someone else. You are not seeking to get some insights regarding something, but they themselves keep on giving you that, even if you do not require it, right? So that is what unsolicited advice means. Let's read further. The unsolicited advice brigade always has gems, always has gems like. Author is again trying to be humorous here. He has used the word gems like to some very rhetorical, some generic sentences, some generic advices to, you can say. Just follow your passion or work smarter, not harder, because obviously no one's ever has ever thought of it before. Again, so you can see that the author is using opposite of what he actually means. He is using humor to convey his message, and hence using the opposite words of exactly what he is trying to convey, right? Which we are able to understand from reading the passage, that he is using opposing words, right? So let's continue. And let's not forget the motivational memes. They are the real game changers. Again, humor, because the author already knows that nothing changes from reading the inspirational, motivational memes. But still, of course, author mentions the opposite of it, trying to be humorous. Clearly, all anyone needs to succeed is a smiling cat poster with "You can do it." So again, rhetorical sentence here, which he already know that if someone says that you can do it, a cat meme which is very famous, saying you can do it doesn't exactly changes everything. Of course, I know if I can do it or not, or I'm not seeking any advice from you. Like I didn't know if someone says you can do it, everything will be done by itself. No, that's not the case. Let's continue. Return across it. How could we not know? Again, a rhetorical question. How did we not know that doing you just do it? We have to do the deed. That's not something new. We already know that we have to do the deed somehow. So again, as Ashish mentioned, we can clearly understand that the author is trying to be sarcastic here, and it is pretty easy to identify the tone here, that the author is trying to be sarcastic here. So I hope this is clear to you. If anybody has a doubt, please ask. Alright, so it seems nobody has a doubt regarding this. We can move on to the next paragraph. You can read it, and then we'll try to identify the tone of it. You have 2 minutes for it. All right, so let's look at the paragraph and try to identify the tone which is mentioned in this paragraph, right? Let's read. The author starts with the constant push for productivity in modern life has become a double edged sword, often promoting efficiency at the expense of genuine well being. So the author mentions that the push for productivity, which is there in which has become common in the general public, is a double-edged sword. Of course, there are certain benefit that promoting efficiency is a good thing. You should be efficient, but this often comes at the expense of genuine well-being, right? The well-being of the individual is often the well-being of an individual is often criticized or looked down upon when compared to the promotion of efficiency, right? Let's continue. While tools and strategies are marketed as ways to maximize potential, they frequently ignore the human element, burnout, mental health, and the diminishing returns of overwork. So, of course, whenever you in a corporate setup, let's say you are planning when you have meetings, it is often focused on increasing the potential of employees, increasing the efficiency of employees, but it rarely looks forward towards the mental well-being of the employee. So, author doesn't exactly like the promotion of productivity. He's almost critical of it. He doesn't exactly in favor of promoting productivity because of course there are certain aspects which are looked away from, like the human well-being part. Let's continue. The obsession with being constantly on means being constantly active, devalues rest and creativity, framing them as laziness rather than necessities. So if someone wants to take a rest or someone is not exactly in the zone for working, they're often looked down upon, right? Because of course, why rest? You should be always on or always active. You should be always contributing towards something. If you're not contributing towards something, you are almost of no use, right? So let's read further. So author is dismissing the productivity efficiency culture, right? Let's continue. Even the education system feeds into this narrative, focusing more on grades and performance metrics than actual learning. It is a system that celebrates output over understanding, leaving individuals chasing accomplishments that often feel hollow. So, from the entire passage, we can say that author is has been critical of the push for productivity culture, and which has even found its place in the education system as well, which constantly treats people based on their grades, their scores in exams, or how much they have accomplished as a student, often overlooking the other important aspect because of mental well-being, or if the person has taken sufficient rest or not, right? So, from reading everything here, we can say that the tone of the author is critical here. So, we have to see what is he critical of. He is critical of the push for productivity culture here, right? In the entire paragraph, you can see that he has eliminated or looked down upon this idea of promoting efficiency over the idea of promoting mental well-being, or if a person is in the zone to work or not, and which is often termed as lazy, he's disapproving of it. So he's critical of the idea, we can say, of for the push for productivity. Hence, the tone of the author will be critical. I hope everything is clear to everyone. If you have a doubt regarding this, please feel free to ask. Then we'll move on to the next paragraph we have. Alright, so let's move on to the next paragraph. So read this paragraph and try to identify the tone which is used there. You have 2 to 3 minutes to read it, and then I'll be explaining it, and we'll together find out what the tone is mentioned here. Alright, so let's look at the paragraph, and let's try to find out what tone is used by the author in this paragraph. So the author starts with, the strides humanity has made in technology and innovation are nothing short of remarkable. So remarkable is obviously a positive word, so we'll keep a note of it. So author is very appreciative of the advances which humanity has made in the technology and innovation aspect, right? Let's continue. From harnessing renewable energy to revolutionizing communication, our progress reflects an extraordinary blend of ingenuity and resilience. Again, positive words here. So author is very appreciative of how much the strides humanity has made in the technology and innovation part, and he has also given examples of it, like the from harnessing renewable sources of energy to revolutionizing the communication aspect, right? So he is very appreciative of it. Let's continue. Scientists, engineers, and visionaries continue to break barriers, crafting solutions to global challenges that once seemed insurmountable. Insurmountable here means which is impossible to get rid of. So author is appreciating the scientists and engineers, due to which we are able to surmount the seemingly insurmountable things, seemingly impossible things earlier, and that can only be attributed to the advances which the scientists and engineers have made. So let's continue. Education has become more accessible, empowering millions to contribute to this wave of transformation. Medicine has advanced to levels that save countless lives daily. Again, positive. And space exploration inspires dreams beyond our planet. So, from the general tone of the author till now, we can easily infer that author is happy with everything the humanity has achieved till now, right? And he has even given examples for it. So, the general tone of the paragraph till now has been positive. So, let's end this paragraph. We'll read the last line. These achievements stand as a testament to human potential and our unwavering commitment to building a brighter, more connected future. Again, a positive sentence that these achievements are an example of how much humanity can achieve, and we are on the same path and we can achieve even more if we continue on this path. So, overall tone of the paragraph is positive, and author is appreciative, we can say, of the of humanity in general, due to the strides, due to the achievements that humanity has achieved in the technological front, innovation front, medicinal front, or even general things, you can say, right? So from all of this, we can infer that the tone of the author is laudatory or appreciative. Right, this was a fairly easy one. You could read the paragraph and see the positive aspect of it, the positive things that the author has described, and we can say that the author believes that in the positive strides which humanity has made. So just the tone of the author will be laudatory. I hope this is clear to you. If you do not have any doubt, we can move on to the last paragraph which we have, and then we'll try to identify the tone in it. Right. So let's move on to the last paragraph. Read this paragraph and try to identify the tone which you can, which this paragraph uses. Or if you have any other query regarding understanding the tones, you can also ask that as well. So you have 2 minutes to answer the tone of this paragraph. All right, so Hershey says that the tone of this paragraph is optimistic. We'll read and try to find out if she's right or not. Right. So let us begin. The world is gradually becoming a more compassionate place as people from all walks of life come together to support one another. So author is happier about how the things have turned out in the on the world front, on the global front, where every people from all walks of life are coming together to support each other. So author is having a general good feeling about it, and he's very happy about it. This we can infer from it. Let's continue. Communities are rediscovering the importance of human connection, with movements promoting kindness, empathy, and mental health awareness gaining momentum. Again, the author is very appreciative of the communities which are coming together to support each other by valuing the human connection which we used to have, kindness among people, and promoting even the mental health awareness among the general public. So author is very happy about it and is uh, appreciative of the community and the people in general. Let's continue. Artists, writers, and musicians continue to inspire, using their work to reflect shared struggles and triumphs, reminding us of our collective humanity. So, author is also appreciative of the artists, writers, and musicians, through their work they continue to show even their drawbacks or the achievements they have made, which brings about a harmony among the general community, right? So people are getting closer to each other through these works because they share the struggles which we also face in our day-to-day lives, right? So let's continue. Social initiatives focused on equality, sustainability, and education are steadily making a difference, fostering a sense of hope. So the author believes that people are hopeful now, more hopeful now, because social communities are, social initiatives are a cause of it. That people are more hopeful, getting more hopeful now. Uh, because those initiatives focus more on equality, freedom, sustainability, and that so that the education is available to each and everyone, right? So the author is very hopeful about the things which we can achieve together by accomplishing these things, right? Let's continue. Despite challenges, the collective drive for positive change demonstrates that brighter days are ahead for everyone. So this is the key point here. That author is very hopeful in a positive way, right? The author is very hopeful about the near future because the way the communities have turned around themselves and have come together in this time and are taking initiatives so that each and every individual can be heard and can be collectively found in the found together in the community. And so an author is very hopeful about how things might turn out. So as Hershey answered, the tone of this paragraph is actually optimistic because the author is very hopeful about the near future and how is very hopeful about how the different communities are going to turn about, right? So that would be all for today's class. It was a pleasure teaching you, every one of you. I hope you got to understand a lot about the different kinds of tones which are there in the reading comprehension. If you understood all the 10 tones which I've mentioned and practice the 5 paragraphs which I mentioned, you are very set to go and very set to learn. The logical reasoning part is going to get easier for you. You will be able to ace it pretty well if you are able to identify the tone which our author is using in the reading comprehension part of a logical reasoning. So I hope everything I taught helped you. You got to learn something new, and I hope this session was useful to you. Thank you everyone for joining. It was a pleasure connecting with you again. All the best for your CLAT preparation. I hope you all ace your exams and do well in your life. Right. So thank you again. All the best.